Early in her development career, Amy served as Director of Development at a domestic violence shelter, at Douglas College, the Women's College at Rutgers University, and at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. Amy continues to serve women's causes and social justice organizations through her volunteer work and her philanthropy. Her published books include Major Gift Fundraising for Small Shops and 50 Asks in 50 Weeks, now in its second edition. She served as president of the AFP New Jersey, the AFP New Jersey chapter in 2014 and in 2015, and became an AFP Distinguished Fellow in 2021, as well as an AFP Master Trainer in 2009. Amy received the CFRE certification in 2004 for the first time, and received the ACFRE in 2013. And with that, I hope you'll all join me in giving a warm Pacific Northwest welcome to Amy.
Thank you. I'm wondering who here has started a diet or joined a gym on January 2nd. And 10 days later, you've broken the diet many times, and you know you're not going back to the gym. Okay, you don't have to admit it. If so, though, you can relate to one of my New Year's resolutions from last year to run a 5K. Now, I love New Year's resolutions. I make them every year, and this January was no different. And I wrote out my long list of all the amazing things I was going to do. I mean, the idea of becoming a better person, doing something amazing, I just love it. And to give my resolutions this year a little extra teeth, I sent an email to my colleagues, to my team, and I said, here are my resolutions. Here's what I'm going to do this year. And here's what I committed to doing last year. And the one that stood out, of course, was failing to run a 5K. What I didn't expect was my team's overwhelming response saying, you can do it, yes you can, we'll cheer you on. And I thought, oh great, new year, new me, new you. I'm gonna add this running a 5K back to this year's list. So I wrote back to my team and I said, okay, I'm gonna run a 5K in person at our retreat. We have an annual in-person retreat in September. And anybody who wants to can run it with me. Those of you that want to sit on the side with your Dunkin', that's fine too. And we were off to the races. Now, literally, I downloaded the Nike running app and I went out and I got myself some new sneakers for the first time in 10 years. That's how much of a non-runner, non-exerciser I am, because, I mean, new sneakers, they're going to be the secret to my success, right? Obviously. So I started out slow, right? The Nike running app eases you in, run a minute, walk a minute, run a minute, walk a minute. Off to a good start. Now you know that the fastest runners in the world run a 4-minute mile. I could not run for 4 minutes, period. By week 2, I was having full-on panic attacks on the treadmill, hyperventilating, tears. I mean, honestly, what was I thinking committing to my team to run in front of them in person in September? I couldn't run for 4 minutes, much less the 40 or whatever it was going to take me to run a 5K. Seriously, what was I thinking? So, fortunately, my wonderful team few of them had volunteered to really be my accountability partners and my running coaches, so they checked in every couple of days, cheerleading me on, and I got through it. And I am proud to say that in March, just 8 weeks after starting, I successfully ran my first 5K. Thanks. Not only that, I ran another one last month in May. I mean, come on, right? So, 3 things happened to transform this non-runner, non-exerciser into the 5K running machine that you see before you here today. 1, I declared my intention publicly. I mean, talk about adding a little motivation to the potential public humiliation that I was sure to face in September, running or, passing out in front of my team. So, motivation, public declaration, I was going to do this. Number 2, of course, setting a specific goal with a specific deadline. September, 5K. Now, you may notice I accomplished my goal 7 months early. Unbelievable, right? Number 3, of course, was my accountability partners, right? Honestly, if they had not been checking in every couple of days, there is no way I would have done it. I would have quit, just like last year, 100%. So those 3 things got me running every single week, right? It turned running into a habit. And gradually I got better at it, right? Habit, practice, running every week. Now, you may be wondering, all right, Amy, get to the point. We're here to talk about the future of fundraising. What the heck does this nice little story have to do with the future of fundraising? But I hope in a few minutes you'll see everything, right? Behavior, accountability, motivation, right? Good habits. The best fundraisers in the world have asking as a habit, right? Asking is a habit. And they didn't start out as great fundraisers. My guess is that most of us, started out feeling pretty panicky. But they practiced and they got better. So I'm here to ask you today, is asking a habit? Do you practice your fundraising? I also want to point out that without technology, I would still be a couch potato. Number 1, the Nike running app. It kept me organized and motivated. It gave me a program that I could actually follow and be successful at, and it showed me my progress along the way. I couldn't have done it without it. Number 2, my accountability partners don't live anywhere near me. So texting, phone call, video chat, they actually could also follow my progress on the Nike running app and cheer me on. So there is an aspect of technology here, but not completely. Of course, there's new and emerging technologies that are coming out every single day, all the time, and with the integration of AI and new and emerging technologies, the possibilities for fundraising are endless. And we can all easily and speedily connect with our donors across the country and around the world, more immediately and personally than ever before. And you're going to be able to build, you're going to be able to build relationships with your donors through Zoom, through other video chat, through texting, through email. And no more are the days where we have to sit and network and have lunch in country clubs. And so the way we communicate is changing, the way we build relationships is changing, the way we work is changing. And those are the practices that helped me run a 5K, and they are going to help you with your fundraising as well. So we're going to take a little trip right now, if you'll indulge me, down memory lane and look at what has worked in fundraising. So let's go back to the 1990s when fundraising was relatively easy, the economy was good, and most Americans gave to charity. Not necessarily the case anymore. The vast majority of Americans gave to charity. And honestly, we sent direct mail, we ran galas, we did golf outings. The money flowed in. We picked up the phone. It was a pretty great time to be a fundraiser. In the early 2000s, less than 25 years ago, fundraisers started to use email for the very first time. Think about it. And with the advent of bulk email, we could be in touch with and communicate with a vast majority of huge numbers of donors easily, quickly, and cheaply for the very first time. In the last 20 years, new tech companies have sprung up targeting our sector. Dozens and hundreds of them, in fact. And for the first time, only in the last 20 years, do we have capable and competent database systems and wealth screening and prospect management tools that we never had before. And they're affordable and they're available and everybody should be using them, right? And software companies now, they're getting smarter. They're adding gamification, they're adding accountability, they're adding motivation components. And if your current database doesn't help you with your fundraising, other than letting you put data in and get data out, in the next 2 to 5 years, they will, for sure. Now, let's go back just 10 years ago, and social media, of course, exploded, right? And as fundraisers, we had high hopes for social media. I mean, this was going to be great for fundraising, wasn't it? Okay, disappointing results, I would say. But there are 3 things I want to point to in social media that do work well. So sort of 3 exceptions to the rule. 1, if you're the American Red Cross and you're in disaster relief, something like that, when there's a tsunami or a fire or a flood, okay, social media works for fundraising. Number 2, of course, is the lucky, rare viral post, right? So I want to point to the Ice Bucket Challenge. I just looked it up. It was 10 years ago. I can't even think of another post that has gone, or campaign that has gone that viral in the last decade. The third thing that I'll just point out, which probably isn't useful to too many nonprofits, is of course crowdfunding. And that usually takes place around individuals or families, often in a medical crisis. Great for fundraising, maybe not for our purposes, but good for fundraising. During COVID, so now we're only 4 years ago, we really used video chat, Zoom primarily, but any type of video chat for the very first time to communicate with donors and volunteers. And I will tell you that as a major gift consultant and coach for the last 2 decades, I only encouraged fundraisers to cultivate and solicit major gift in person until COVID. We have a new tool in our fundraising toolbox, and now I encourage you to use that tool. You should be cultivating and soliciting donors, especially when they're geographically distant or just simply hard to schedule. So there's one aspect of technology that I will argue has made our jobs significantly harder, and that is, of course, everybody today screens their calls, right? So the question is, what will work today? What's working today? And more importantly, what will work in the future? So I want to start by exploring 6 trends that we're seeing that will help you think about how you engage both large and small donors. That's the future of fundraising. So trend number 1, donor-advised funds. DAFs. As fundraisers, we may not care for them too much, but the truth is that donors love them for their tax efficiency and they're easy to manage their philanthropy. And so there is going to be an increase in donor-advised funds, and I would argue that smart, creative fundraisers are going to find a way to connect with and tap into relationships with owners of donor-advised funds, holders of donor-advised funds. And when you do, you are going to have access to huge sums of money. Trend number 2, of course, is leveraging technology. So the ways we use technology, of course, are endless, but specifically for more inclusive and accessible and collaborative giving campaigns. So think mobile giving, think giving circles, crowdfunding, right? How are you going to use that? And of course, we're going to use technology to leveraging technology, sorry, I'm tripping over my words, to segment and target the best donors for your organization. Trend number 3 is a rise in the need for planned giving, right? We're seeing the generational transfer of wealth. And if you haven't gotten on board yet, it's not too late, but it will be soon. So make sure that your offices are doing robust planned giving so that you can take advantage of this generational transfer of wealth that's been coming, that's coming, it's here. Trend number 4, support for organizations that are prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, right? Charity Navigator recently put out a research report that shows that the next generation of donors, Gen Z and millennials, have strong preferences for organizations that are prioritizing DEI. Trend 5, modernizing traditional naming opportunities. Instead of naming rooms and buildings after wealthy, mostly white donors, organizations are looking for more viable, equitable, interesting alternatives. We recently worked with a music school, and they had donors, instead of putting their own names on plaques, identify a musician that they wanted to honor, and musicians' names went up all over the building. It was lovely. Not only that, some organizations are deciding to forego naming opportunities altogether, and they are seeking alternative, more equitable ways to recognize both donors and volunteers. And finally, trend 6 that I'm going to mention is let's say better work environments, right? Allowing fundraisers to work how and where and when they want. I mean, you know, we already have in the palm of our hands, in our pockets, email, texting, communication, donor databases, everything you could need in the palm of your hand or in your pocket to work and connect with your colleagues, your volunteers, and your donors. So we need to provide space as organizations to allow fundraisers to go grocery shopping, to do some laundry, to go to an exercise class, to check on elderly parents, to pick up kids after school during traditional work hours, because we do expect them to work nights and weekends and mornings and be on call. And so organizations that can prevent the burnout of their best employees and attract the best employees, they are the future of fundraising. You've come here today because with the promise of exploring what is the future of fundraising. And I'm guessing that you know the definition of insanity, right? Right? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I'm guessing some of you have board members or maybe people on your leadership team who operate this way. They have, yes, thank you. Can I get some snaps? Thank you. They believe that we've always done it this way. We should always do it this way. The same old is the way. They're too uncomfortable to try anything different, anything new. But they are. Anybody here still using a Yellow Pages? Anybody's kids using an Encyclopedia Britannica? for research at school. Some of you are so young, you don't even know what I'm talking about. I know, I got it. Some things never change. That's what we're going to talk about today. Some things never change. We're always into the future. I'm going to be a fortune teller here, a future looker. We're going to need to build relationships. We're going to need to research donors. We're going to need to communicate with donors. The methods we use are going to change, not the purpose. The purpose will stay the same: communication, research, relationship building. The methods will change. And so the future of fundraising depends on you and your ability and willingness to try the new methods. We need to leverage the trends, the technology of today and tomorrow. And in order to do that, you're going to need three things. One is you're going to need connection and connectivity. You're going to need to adapt and adaptability. And three, you need creativity and to create. Okay, I see so many people fanning themselves. Who's in charge of the air conditioning here? Okay, if anybody can hear me and has control of the air conditioning, I'm not the only one sweating. I see so many people fanning themselves. Woo! Okay, that is the future of fundraising. Being cool in a heated world, right? Woo! Okay, yeah, what are we gonna do? You know what, it's so funny. I came yesterday and I'm from the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey. Yeah, so I flew in yesterday and it's so gorgeous here this week. And I have this stereotype, I don't know if it's stereotype, that it rains here all the time, right? So I got myself to Pike Place Market. I've never been here before. It was a thrill. And I was ordering a taco, and I said to the woman who was making it, I said, you know, what do you think of this gorgeous weather? She's like, oh, I love the rain. She's like, it is too hot. I was like all bundled up yesterday, you know. I had my long sleeves on, my vest, because I was like, oh, it's 90 at home. It's cold here. But she wanted it to be cooler and rainier. So anyways, what can you do? Okay, back to the future of fundraising. We're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about connection, connecting, adapting, creating. Those are the three things. Connecting. So you know you need to be connected, right? Connected through technology to people. And you probably thought I meant connected to the internet, and I do. But connecting on the internet is to people. That's why you're connecting on the internet. So 100 years ago, the way people connected was they wrote letters to one another. They sat on front porches, they gossiped in rocking chairs. And gradually, the telephone made connection easier. Now, my dad tells this great story about the one phone in his college dorm hallway. 40 guys sharing one phone. Can you imagine? I mean, the phone rings, whoever's closest picks it up and goes, yo, David, your mom's on the phone, or whatever. I can't even imagine. Of course, when I got to college, we had phones in our rooms, but they were attached to the wall. My kids in college today have phones in their pockets, but they don't use them to make phone calls. They text, they DM, they chat through social channels that I'm not even aware of. The purpose, communication, stays the same. The method changes, right? My freshman class at Rutgers University was the first class where everybody was automatically assigned an email address. My freshman class. I came in, eisenstein.rutgers.edu. That was my email address. The class right before me, 1 year older than me, they didn't have email addresses. If they wanted one, they could walk down the hill to the computer lab, get in line, there wasn't much of a line, and sign up for an email address, but they didn't have anybody to write to, so it kind of didn't matter. And today, of course, we can't imagine life without email. I can't imagine life. I think it's total, it's the only way I communicate. And yet, I wonder if email is also going to be a thing of the past. My kids don't use it, or they try like heck not to. They text, they DM, they through social, and my 17-year-old says that email is for communicating with teachers and really old people. Totally, right? So the good news is, however you're communicating today, rather than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and really how you're communicating tomorrow will be easier to connect and communicate with people all across the country and all around the world. And this interconnectivity increases the chances that we are going to communicate with people outside of our own race, class, geography. And that's the future of fundraising. I want to introduce you to a development director named Angela. Now, Angela worked at a wonderful little cat sanctuary named Tabby's Place in New Jersey, and her board members decided that it was time for a capital campaign. And as you can imagine, a little animal shelter, they were wonderful with direct mail, they had all these loyal annual fund donors, and they did a few small events every year, and they wrote a few grants, but they had no major gift fundraising. They did not know how to do capital campaigns, right? Nobody there. Makes sense. And so they had this $1 million goal in order to renovate a space to provide a home for cats with feline leukemia. Did anybody know that cats got feline leukemia? A few nods. I definitely didn't. So they did what they knew how to do best, and Angela created a beautiful brochure, and she wrote a really heartfelt letter. And they reasoned that if just 100 people gave them gifts of $10,000 each, they would raise the $1 million that they needed. So she put it in the letter, will you please consider a gift for this wonderful campaign of $10,000, and they sent it off to all their direct mail donors, and they sat by the mailbox. How many gifts of $10,000 do you think they got? They got 2. 2 more than maybe I would have expected, but 2. So they raised $20,000 towards their $1 million goal. And after licking their wounds and taking a deep breath, the board and Angela realized that they had not communicated effectively, or perhaps in the right way, and they didn't have the right campaign strategy. The good news is they were not insane. They knew they needed to do something different, and that's when they started working with us, and that's when I first met Angela. And of course, we partnered Angela with somebody in our, one of our experienced campaign advisors on our team, and they taught Angela really for the first time how to manage and use her data, how to do wealth screening, how to do some prospect research, and she and her team spent the next 24 months building relationships, cultivating donors, engaging them, really tailoring and narrowing their focus on the best prospective donors, those most likely to give gifts to help them towards their goal. And 24 months later, fundraising is not a sprint, it is a marathon. They were able to solicit gifts that were significantly bigger than $10,000. And they not only raised the $1 million they needed toward the renovation, they raised over $2 million. Yeah, right? Yes. So ton of work, but I want to say that predictive analytics uses data and machine learning and algorithms and all sorts of things that I do not begin to understand to help predict people's behaviors. And those predictive analytics is now being integrated into your database systems and all sorts of technology working behind the scenes that you don't even know of, that you're not even aware of. But the good news is that we will be able to start anticipating donors' behaviors. And predictive analytics is getting better and better, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper. And it's really, I think, the magic combination of tech and relationship building that helped Angela and her team be so successful. And that is the future of fundraising. Now, since COVID, you know, people are more and more eager to connect than ever before. And we actually have a loneliness epidemic. 1 in 3 people report being lonely. And so connection and genuine relationships are going to be more important than ever. Our world is being overtaken by fake news and internet imposters, and connection and trust are going to be more important than ever. And for better or for worse, whether you're thrilled about it or not, donors are going to demand transparency, and they want to know that you are who you say you are. They want to give where they have trusted relationships, and you're going to use technology to help build those relationships. Technology is not going to take the place of relationships. It is going to aid you in building better, more effective relationship and engagement strategies. And nonprofits need to be more open and transparent about their outcomes and their use of donor funds, and technology is going to help you do that. Simply good enough is no longer going to be good enough. You are going to need to double down on connecting and engaging and building relationships with donors. And your ability to develop them strongly using current and future technology is going to be essential. And that's the future of fundraising. So you know that connecting is essential, and we're connecting with donors. Now we're going to talk about adapting so that you can do it better and more effectively. The future of fundraising and adaptability is going to favor those who are nimble, who are flexible, who are willing to try new things. So those of you that, when I said the board members, right, we're going to have to figure out what to do with them. We're going to need to adapt to the new technologies that are coming out. I was in a fundraising workshop recently, and the topic was AI, right? Artificial intelligence. And a woman bravely raised her hand in the audience, and she said that she was a grant writer, and she had not yet tried ChatGPT. And that she didn't think it would save her time, right? She hadn't tried it, but she knew it wasn't going to save her time. Now, let me tell you, the gasp in that audience was audible. Now, some of you are sort of hanging your head in shame. You haven't tried it yet either. So you don't know what it can do for you. Now, this wasn't like the week after ChatGPT came out. It wasn't the month after ChatGPT came out. It was a year after ChatGPT came out. You should have tried it by now. That's your first note. That's Monday's task, maybe tomorrow. Monday's task, right? Listen, you can't say you don't want to use it. It doesn't help. You don't like it if you haven't tried. I'm not saying that you're going to use it. I'm saying that you should try it. You should know what's out there. You should know what the options are. Now, I understand some people are early adopters. We in the nonprofit sector, for the most part, I'm going to stereotype and say we are late adopters of technology, right? And sometimes there are good reasons for that. We're busy with clients, we're understaffed, we're underpaid, we're overworked. We don't have resources to try the latest and greatest technology. But ChatGPT is free. And there are certain things where there's just no excuse, right? Who remembers the first time they bought something online? Anybody? It wasn't that long ago. I mean, I was an adult, right? So it wasn't that long ago. And I remember being afraid. I was nervous to put my credit card number into the computer because I was convinced somebody was going to steal my number, right? And they may very well have, but so far, so good. Right now, we do everything online, and it's only a few years later. We shop online, we take classes online, we read online, we listen to music and podcasts online, radio online. We plan our vacations, we schedule our doctor's appointments. Everything is online, but the purpose doesn't change. Notice the theme? We still shop, we still read books, we still listen to music, we schedule doctor's appointments, but the method has changed. The purpose doesn't change, the method has changed. Just think about how listening to music has changed over the decades. When I was little, I listened to records. We had a record player in our house. I danced around the living room. It was great. But I'll never forget, for my 10th birthday, I got a Walkman. And it played cassettes. And it was mobile. And I could go out in the neighborhood with my headset on. And I was so cool. By the time I got to college, I had a tower of CDs. 2 towers. And today, I don't even have a CD player. There's no CD player in my car. I couldn't play a CD if I wanted to, and I am heartbroken to tell you that all of our collective CDs are now in landfills and the bottom of ocean. But we stream music now. So the purpose, listening to music, hasn't changed. The method has changed. And everything is changing. Everything gets outdated more and more quickly. And the question is, will you adapt? And how will you adapt? I was recently contacted by a development director named Mary, and she was super frustrated because her donors weren't getting back to her, and her donors were declining, and her dollars were declining, and she couldn't get meetings. And we talked about all of the challenges, what kind of messages she was leaving, what kind of subject lines she was using. But the reality is that she needed a better way to collect, store, and manage her data. She didn't understand that today's data can show her donor patterns and interests. I recommended she try a new program called Give Momentum. Actually, I think it's called Momentum, but the website is Give Momentum. And it's a donor engagement platform. And it uses AI to recommend the 1 or 2 donors that she should be in touch with each day, using behind-the-scenes data and things that she doesn't have to worry about. So it gives her a pop-up message, you should contact so-and-so, and it even drafts the email for her. It is unbelievable. So I encourage you to carefully select the tools and apps and services moving forward to have life-changing results in your fundraising, truly. A few years ago, somebody recommended to me Calendly. Who uses a scheduling app, right? Any app. And, oh, that's not a lot of hands. Okay, a scheduling app. Somebody recommended Calendly about 3 years ago. And I have to say, my business partner and I were a little nervous about trying it. She didn't want to give up the back and forth with clients and prospective clients that she thought was sort of those ongoing touches. How about Friday at 3? No. How about Monday at 4? No. How about Tuesday at 10? I was nervous that it actually wouldn't sync with my calendar. But we adapted. We pushed past the fear. And I will tell you now personally, I believe that Calendly saves me over 100 hours a year. 100 hours a year. Does anybody want 100 hours a year back in your life? Anybody strapped for time? One app. It's not that expensive. The truth is, it's invaluable. I would probably pay whatever it costs, but it's fairly inexpensive. And adapting to our ever-changing world, it's important and appropriate for you to find the tools and technology and services to help you do the critically important work that you do. I want you to think and ask yourself 3 questions about our adapting, ever-changing world. And one is, what is likely to change in fundraising in the next 3 to 5 years? How can we get ready for it? How can we prepare for it? 2, is AI making fundraising more effective? Is it helping me build relationships? If so, how? How could we be using it? And 3, can I use tech to improve my communication, to save time, to build relationships? And I want to be looking for those tools. The future of fundraising is an evolution. It's not a revolution. And technology is evolving faster and faster, and you need to be ready to adapt. The good news is that you don't have to do it on your own. I don't expect you to be a technology expert or aware of all the new apps and services as they come out. You've got a community right here in this room, and you can ask for recommendations. And we're going to do it right now. So, who knows how to use a QR code? If you don't, you can join at slido.com and punch in the number. You don't have to know how to use a QR code, but I hope you do by now. And I want you to type in what your favorite tech tools and services and apps that you would recommend to your colleagues in the room right now. Right? So you don't have to know about everything. You don't have to stay on top of the trends. You don't have to stay on the tech. You just need to ask your colleagues, what are their favorite services and apps? Let's see what we've got here. I never know how to say it. Is it Asana or Asana? Asana. Okay, we've got Canva. We've got Give Lively. Excellent. Google Forms, Smartsheet, Instrumental, Monday. I've not even heard of half of them. Trello, great. We've got everything from productivity tools to databases, donor databases. What else do we have? Awesome. All right, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. Okay, so take a screenshot. These are the tools that your colleagues are using. This is what's working for them. Nobody put up a bad one, right? I want you to commit to trying one of these this year, maybe 2. Listen, what I said to my partner Andrea when we were trying Calendly is we need to commit to trying it for 3 months. If we don't like it, we'll get rid of it, right? We're not signing up for life. We're going to try it. And within 3 weeks, we were like, oh my gosh, how could we have ever lived without this? Honestly, now, there's occasions when it's appropriate to go back and forth with scheduling, but not many. So you understand that you have a community. You don't have to be on top of technology. You just need to ask your AFP colleagues what they're using, what you should try, what's making a real difference in your fundraising. And we've been through the importance of connecting and adapting, and now we're going to talk about creating. Creativity and innovation. Recently, I was in Times Square, and if you ever been to Times Square at night, it's as bright as day, right? With all the screens, the scrolling advertisements, the flashing lights, the scrolling screens, it's overwhelming. And thanks to technology and social media, our attention spans are shorter and shorter and shorter as we scroll through social media and 15-second videos and 40-character messages. It's more important than ever that you stand out and be creative as you can so that you can break through the noise, because there's a lot competing for everybody's attentions. And I want you to think about some companies that broke through the noise with their creativity and use of technology that are real standouts today. So one, I want to say TurboTax. TurboTax made doing your taxes available and easy for the first time without the use of an accountant, right? Unbelievable. LegalZoom, same thing. You could, for the first time, do legal contracts and wills, and it was accessible to non-attorneys. Anybody using WebMD to diagnose your ailments? I'm not saying it's smart, I'm just saying. Creativity, innovation, technology. At Capital Campaign Pro, we looked to the future and we asked, what will campaigns in the future look like? And we changed the model of Capital Campaign services and consulting and made it more available and accessible to nonprofits everywhere. We created, we adapted in 3 important ways. And number 1 is not going to be a surprise to you. We leverage technology. And we leverage technology to provide campaign support remotely and virtually. And that was pre-COVID. It's because it's effective and efficient. And we saw so many fundraisers that are typically isolated. Anybody feel isolated in their fundraising jobs? And we bring them together every single week via Zoom for peer support, advice, and encouragement. Number 2, we changed the model of feasibility study. So instead of having a consultant go out and interview your best prospective donors before you do a capital campaign, we provide the strategy, the plan, and the training, and we train nonprofit leaders so that you can go build relationships with your biggest potential donors and do the interviews before campaigns. Our focus is on you building relationships, building your confidence, and having transparent, open, honest conversations, which we have discovered, to our delight, that nonprofit leaders and donors are delighted to have with one another. And third, of course, we provide world-class campaign materials that are available on any device at any time in a curated online toolkit. And fundraisers are empowered to lead their own campaigns. They don't need to rely on consultants to dole out little bits of information, one bite-sized snippet at a time. And they don't need to go to Google and Google their way to a campaign, right? There's no more inventing the wheel. We saw a need, we created, we adapted. We connect fundraisers using technology to expertise, resources, and each other. And that's the future of fundraising. One of our clients, Carrie, is the executive director at a small social service agency. And they support children who have been abused and neglected. And Carrie desperately needed more counseling rooms and a new building to provide the support that she needed for her clients. And of course, Carrie and her board had no idea if they could raise the funds that they needed. And so they hired a campaign consultant, not us, to do a feasibility study. And the results came back and said they probably couldn't even raise $1 million towards their $3 million goal. And Carrie was devastated, but she wasn't going to take no for an answer. And so she knew that her board wasn't going to let her hire more campaign help, and honestly, they couldn't afford it anyways. And so she searched the internet and she found us. And she used the online tools. She came to the weekly peer support group calls religiously for about 3 years. And not only did she raise the $3 million she needed for her building, she just closed out her campaign at over $6.3 million, right? It's amazing, amazing. So we are so proud of technology, creativity, innovation. We are bringing the nonprofit community together through capital campaigns thanks to technology. You no longer have to be alone or do this by yourself. You don't have to be in silos. In fact, thanks to technology, executive directors and development directors gather virtually every week in a safe space to provide support and encouragement and learn from one another. And our clients become partners instead of competitors, allies instead of enemies, friends instead of foes, and truly everybody wins. And creativity and innovation coupled with technology That's the future of fundraising. All right, so we started our time together today by asking a really important question, and that is, what is the future of fundraising? And the truth is, the conclusion I've come to is it's about people. It's about staff, it's about donors, it's volunteers, it's the clients you serve. It's people who look like us and those who don't. It's about people that share our values and people who don't. It's about people who share our religion, our gender, our race, our age, our sexual orientation, our abilities, and of course, those who don't. You and me and we are the future of fundraising. So, should you be optimistic or terrified? Look, there is a downward trend in donors and dollars, and we can't ignore it. It's real. It's in the data. What we can do is actively embrace the change and the new methods we know are coming. I'm going to challenge you today to set a huge fundraising goal, maybe double or even triple, if you dare, what you raised last year. Develop specific goals and a deadline. Declare it to the world, right? Figure out your goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, announce it to the world. Research and adopt the best technology that is going to help you with the planning, the tracking, the motivation. Build relationships with your donors. Find the best accountability partners and tools. I would have failed without mine for sure. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You are the first to know my #1 resolution for 2025. Run a 10K, okay? Okay, we'll see. To succeed, I know that I'm going to need creativity, adaptability, and connection. And you already know this stuff. It's not entirely about technology or AI. The future of fundraising depends on you and your ability to create, connect, and adapt. Thank you.